What happens when two of country music's most famous figures face off on live television, and a simple question turns into a firestorm no one expected? Today, we're looking at the shocking confrontation between Keith Urban and Kelly Clarkson that had everyone talking. The Kelly Clarkson show was supposed to be just another routine promotional stop for Keith Urban, where he'd chat about his latest album, share a few stories, and connect with Kelly's wide audience. But what began as a friendly talk soon turned tense when Kelly asked something that hit a nerve. "So, Keith," she said with a polite smile, "there's been some talk about authenticity in country music lately. I'm curious what you think about artists who people say have drifted too far from the genre's roots." Keith's face changed right away. His relaxed attitude tightened, and his fingers tapped the armrest. "Well, Kelly, that's quite the loaded question, isn't it? What exactly are you getting at?" he asked. Kelly smiled lightly, not sensing the tension rising. "I just mean, how do you respond to critics who say that some artists, including you, have gone too far into pop music? There was that article last month that questioned whether you're still making country music at all." The audience sensed the shift. Keith sat back, silent for a moment before responding with an edge in his voice. "You know what, Kelly? I find it interesting that you'd bring that up without even asking me first if I wanted to talk about it. This feels less like an interview and more like an ambush." Kelly's eyes widened, caught off guard. "Keith, that's not what I meant. I'm just trying to have an honest talk about where country music is headed. You're one of its biggest stars, so your thoughts matter. Address what exactly?" Keith's voice rose, his accent thickening. "That people want to tell me what kind of music I should make? That success means I'm not authentic anymore?" The room went silent. Kelly shifted uneasily. "Keith, that's not what I'm saying. I love your music. I was just hoping to hear your view on how the genre's changing." Keith laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Here's my perspective. I've been making music for over 20 years, sold millions of records, won Grammys, and stayed true to myself. So when someone asked me to defend my choices because of what a critic wrote, yeah, I've got a problem with that." The tension was thick. Kelly took a deep breath. "Keith, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to talk about trends in the industry." "A discussion?" Keith snapped. "Kelly, let me ask you something. When was the last time someone questioned your authenticity as a pop artist? When did anyone tell you you're not being true to your roots?" Kelly tried to respond, but Keith didn't stop. "That's the issue. Country music is obsessed with policing its artists, telling us how to sound, look, and act. Heaven forbid we evolve." "Keith, I get that you're frustrated," Kelly replied carefully. "But I think you're reading something that isn't there. I was just asking a real question about the genre, not making it personal." "Wasn't I, though?" Keith shot back. "Because it sure feels like you were. It's always the artists who try new things who get attacked. Always the ones who push boundaries even a little." The exchange was growing more heated by the second. Kelly straightened her shoulders. "You know what, Keith? I think you're being unfair. I've had lots of country artists on my show, and I've never had a conversation go like this. Maybe it's not the questions, it's how you're hearing them." Keith leaned forward, his jaw tight. "So now it's my fault? Now I'm the problem because I don't like being ambushed? That's rich, Kelly." Kelly's face flushed. "Keith, we should take a step back. This got out of hand." "Oh, I think you knew where this was going," Keith said, his voice louder now. "You had that article ready. Those questions lined up. Probably thought I'd just give you some polite answer. Well, I'm not playing that game." Crew members exchanged nervous glances as the atmosphere thickened. Kelly tried again. "Keith, I didn't bring you here to make you uncomfortable. I always aim for real, thoughtful conversations." "Your intentions don't matter," Keith snapped. "What matters is what you did. You sat me down in front of cameras and asked me to justify my art based on a critic's opinion. That's insulting." Kelly's patience thinned. "Keith, you're being unfair and honestly a bit paranoid. I asked about trends, not your personal worth. Maybe you should ask yourself why you're so defensive." Keith shot up from his seat, nearly knocking his chair over. The audience gasped. "Defensive? Lady, I've been in this business longer than you've been performing, and I don't need to defend myself to anyone." Kelly stayed seated, eyes sharp. "I know good music, Keith. I know authenticity. What I see now is someone who can't handle a simple question without exploding." The studio went dead silent. Keith's voice dropped low. You want to talk about insecurity? Let's talk about a host who tears down artists to feel relevant. Kelly stood now, matching his stance. You are completely out of line, Keith Urban. I've never been spoken to like this on my show. And I've never had a host try to humiliate me on live TV, Keith shot back. The room was electric with tension. Kelly's hands were clenched. Keith's face was flushed. Finally, Kelly spoke calmly. You know what? This interview is over. Maybe think about why a simple question made you react like this. Keith laughed bitterly. My insecurities? You try to corner me, then blame me for reacting. You're right about one thing. It's over. If you don't feel respected, Kelly said, look at how you're treating your host. You're being unprofessional. Unprofessional? Keith barked. How about ambushing a guest for ratings? Kelly shook her head. Keith, I've never done that. I've always respected my guests. The fact you think otherwise says more about you than me. Oh, I'm sure your producers are thrilled, Keith said coldly. They'll edit this up nicely for maximum drama. Kelly looked hurt but recovered quickly. That's disgusting, Keith. You'd accuse me of setting you up? I built this show on respect. You really think I'd sabotage a guest? I think you know how TV works, Keith replied. Controversy sells. If asking about trends upsets you, maybe the critics have a point, Kelly countered. That lit the fuse again. Keith stepped closer, his voice low. Don't you dare validate those critics. You don't know what it's like to be questioned every time you evolve. And you don't know what it's like to be attacked for doing your job, Kelly snapped back. Other country stars I've had were respectful. They didn't explode over questions. That's perfect, Keith said bitterly. Compare me to others. That's what country music always does. Maybe it's about who can have a professional conversation, Kelly shot back. Because right now, you're proving their point. Keith looked stunned. What did you just say? You're acting like someone who's forgotten where they came from, Kelly said firmly. I haven't forgotten anything, Keith replied through gritted teeth. But you've forgotten that interviews require respect. I haven't disrespected you, Kelly said. But you turned this into an attack. A setup, Keith said bitterly. You don't even see it. No, the problem is you can't take criticism, Kelly retorted. You think success means no one can question you. Criticism? Keith said, voice shaking. That's gatekeeping disguised as journalism. And this is why I asked, Kelly said, frustrated. Because this conversation needs to happen, but you're making it impossible. A breakdown? Keith scoffed. Standing up for myself isn't a breakdown. Then maybe learn the difference between passion and aggression, Kelly said sharply. Keith ran a hand through his hair. You don't get it, Kelly. I'm not doing this anymore. Then what are you going to do? Walk away? Kelly asked. Yes, Keith said quietly. Because this stopped being an interview a long time ago. You're not being ambushed, Kelly said firmly. You're being interviewed. Keith gave a short, bitter laugh. I used to respect you, Kelly. I thought you understood artists. Her expression turned cold. And I thought you knew how to handle a professional conversation. Keith shook his head. You still don't get it. You put me on trial. Maybe someone needed to, Kelly snapped. Maybe you needed to be challenged. The studio was frozen. Keith's eyes narrowed. There's the real Kelly Clarkson, the one who thinks she needs to humble people. That's not true, Kelly shot back. But real artists can discuss their work without losing control. Adults don't ambush guests, Keith said. And adults don't throw tantrums, Kelly replied. Keith took a step back. You thought you could use me for a TV moment. That's ridiculous, Kelly said. You created this mess. Is that what you'll tell people? Keith asked. That I couldn't handle it? I'll tell them the truth, Kelly said. That you turned a friendly talk into a fight. Keith sighed. You're right. This is over. Not because I can't handle criticism, but because I won't take this disrespect. You can walk away, Kelly said, but that won't fix anything. Keith turned back one last time. I came here expecting a real conversation, not an ambush. This was about respect, Kelly, and you failed. With that, Keith walked off, leaving Kelly standing before a stunned audience. The silence was deafening, broken only by his fading footsteps. Kelly finally spoke softly. "Well, I guess that's a wrap on today's interview with Keith Urban. We'll be right back after the break." As the cameras stopped rolling, it was clear that something had broken beyond repair. The end of an interview, and the end of a friendship, burned to ashes on live television.